In example 3, we're going to look at our linear model. It says to learn more about water evaporation, you measure the depth of a puddle after a rainstorm. Your first measurement, taken 3 hours after the storm, was 2.25 inches. You take another measurement an hour later to determine that the rate of evaporation of the puddle is 0.25 inches per hour. Write a linear equation that measures the depth of the puddle D in terms of T, the number of hours since the storm. If we want to write our linear model, again, it's very important to understand what the variables stand for. So let's write those out. We have D, which is equal to the depth of the puddle, and that's in inches. And then we have T, which is equal to the number of hours since the storm. And as we look at our variables D and T, we need to figure out which one's X and which one's Y, which one's independent versus which one's dependent. So if we take a look at hours, remember our time is always going to be that independent variable. Time's going to happen no matter what. And the depth of the puddle is going to depend on the number of hours that have passed, which means T is going to be our X and D is going to be our Y. Now what we need to do is we need to go and find some information. Our goal always is to find a slope and a y-intercept, but that's not always going to be given to us. So if we take a look at our problem, in this last sentence here, it says that the rate of evaporation of the puddle is 25 inches for every hour. Remember that slope and rate are the exact same thing. So we have two hints here that indicate that this 0.25 is going to be our slope. The first one is that they call it the rate of evaporation. That rate, remember rate and slope from last chapter are the same thing. And this 0.25 inches is happening for every hour. So for every one of our X that we have that 0.25. The other thing you have to remember is that it's evaporating. Evaporating means it's going down or decreasing. So that tells us that our slope for this problem is going to be a negative 0.25 because it's evaporating. That water is going away. The other thing we're looking for is that y-intercept. Do we have a y-intercept, which means we would need a starting point. So if we're talking about the depth of a puddle after a storm, do we know right after that rainstorm how much water was in that puddle? And the answer to that is no. If you look through here, it doesn't tell us what that was. However, it does tell us that we have a measurement 3 hours after the storm, which was 2.25 inches. It's comparing your T and your D, so the number of hours with the depth of a puddle. That represents an ordered pair. So we have an ordered pair that 3 hours, the puddle was 2.25 inches. And because we have a slope and a point, we can use that information to help us find B. Plugging back in again to our formula y equals mx plus b. We're going to plug the 2.25 in for y. Our slope we found to be negative 0.25. And our x is 3 plus b. Multiplying negative 0.25 times 3 will give us 2.25 equal to negative 0.75 plus b. And then if we add 0.75 to both sides, we get b equal to 3. So that means we can find our equation. Our equation is going to be d, remember we're putting d instead of y, equals negative 0.25 times t, we're using t instead of x, plus our y-intercept, which we found to be 3. Here's our formula. And then in part B, we're going to use that formula in order to estimate when the puddle will be 7 hours after the storm. So if we have 7 hours, remember hours is our t variable, so we're going to be plugging 7 in for the t right here. So we get d equal to negative 0.25 times 7 plus 3. Negative 0.25 times 7 plus 3 will give us 1.25. So we can say that the depth of the puddle after the storm, after 7 hours from the storm, is 1.25 inches. Now I would like you to do the try this. It's going to be very similar to what we did in the above problem. Okay, you should be able to find the slope. You should also be able to find an ordered pair that you can use to help you find your y-intercept. So again, mirror along with example 3. If you get stuck somewhere or you can't figure out what information you have, please call me over so I can explain it to you and you can work from there. So go ahead and pause it now, unpause it when you're ready to check your answer. The answer that you get here for letter A should be C equals 0.23x plus 26. And for part B, after 60 minutes of airtime, you should get $39.80. If you have any questions, please let me know.